Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the first and long college football show. I'm your co-host Marcus. That's your other co-host Mason. Mason, how you doing today, bud?
Man, I'm doing good. We got our top 25 out yesterday. If you haven't had a chance to look at that, I invite you to take a look at that.
Yeah,
Um, I like the way things are shaping up. It seems a little bit more definitive, at least in that top 11 now with that extra game.
yeah,
There's a little bit less, um, disparity with us, the AP poll, and other polls out there. It seems pretty unanimous who's in the top 10 for the most part.
yeah.
How it shapes up, you could interplay that however you want, but um, outside of those top 11, and we mentioned it yesterday, it gets a little hazy,
Yeah.
But anyways, really excited to talk about this week. It's we don't have six top 25 matchups. We've never had that before. You know, outside of last week, but it's still shaping up to be a good one. And we're starting to get into that interleague play, interconference play, and starting to realize who are the big dogs in each conference. And
Yeah.
we've got 8 games, I think, to break down tonight, and I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to go a long way in deciding what the pecking order is in a lot of the divisions in these conferences. Um, we got a lot of interconference play going on. So let's get right to it, man. We're gonna, as we go through these, we'll give our best bets of the week, and if there's anything on these key matchups that we have as far as those best bets, we'll let you know. And then at the end of the show, we'll add in whatever best bets we may have that are not included in this key matchup. But we're going to be talking about Utah, Oregon State. We're going to be talking about USC at Colorado, Kansas at Texas, UGA at Auburn, LSU at Ole Miss, Notre Dame at Duke, South Carolina at Tennessee, and I forgot about Florida at Kentucky, also at noon with that USC at Colorado. So we've got some great games to talk about. And as we talked about, next week's going to be really awesome too. So we're about to go into a couple really, really good weeks of college football. So without further ado, let's dive into it. Let's talk about this Utah at Oregon State game that we've got going on here. And I'll tee it off for us real quick. Um, I've got uh, I've got Utah um, covering this spread, so it's moved to Oregon State -3. Got a 3-point favorite at home. So Utah being the road dog. I really like Utah. I actually bet them at +2.5. So this line has actually moved in the favor of Oregon State. I guess a lot of money coming in on them. Um, Look, this Utah team, I know they lack offense. I understand that, but they're not a team that relies on one side of the ball. They don't rely on just offense. They don't rely on just defense. They don't rely on just special teams. It's a team unit. They're cohesive. They are very cohesive. And I think the quarterback situation is coming along. Cam Rising is not coming back right now. I'm not even going to talk about that. He'll be back whenever he's back. I'm done trying to speculate when he's coming back. Nate Johnson is the quarterback. And Nate Johnson is a prolific runner. I think the passing game is coming along. I think that's gonna you're gonna deal with freshman woes as far as that goes at this point. But that defense just keeps them in every single game, and Utah is especially good against the run. Oregon State is a run first team. They've got to run to be successful, to set up play action deep downfield. That's how this offense is set up. And that's why DJ Uyunglele has had so much success there, because his downfield passes are really, really good. It's the intermediate stuff that he struggles with. And I fully expect Utah to be able to shut down the run while preventing explosive plays, which they've done all year long. What do you think about this matchup, Mason? I like Utah to cover, and I really like Utah on the money line here.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. Look, statistically, when you break these two teams down, they're pretty similar in a lot of ways. Especially when you look at rush defense, right? Oregon State's at seventh. at 2.43 yards per attempt. Utah is at fourth at 2.02 yards per attempt. Oregon State's really relied a lot on their rushing, right? And you can see that they're at fourth in the league at 6.29 yards per attempt. Well, if Utah's able to take that away, what I mean is DJU going to be able to chuck it down the field? To score all of their pass.
I think it all starts with the rush for them, and that's
Right.
why I say if Utah can limit the rush, they can limit the explosive plays too. All in one.
That's right. So, whenever I'm breaking this down, I understand why money's coming in on Oregon State. I really do. But I think that Oregon State the past 2 weeks has been trending down in comparison, relative to their first 2 weeks, right? I don't
Yeah.
feel like on offense, at least, they've been as prolific. Last week, we saw defensively they had some real issues in the passing game. That had a lot more to do with Washington State than it did
Yeah.
Oregon State's defense.
I
I think
agree.
Washington State's really good at passing the football, and I think Cam Ward is really proficient at that. But Utah defensively, they've been that sort of bend but don't break sort of defense, right? They've only allowed 9.5 points per game, and the opponent third down conversion, they're first in the country at 19.61%. Opponents have been able to convert on third down, and that's really, really low. So they kind of give up some yards here and there, but when the time counts in the red zone, they hunker down and they're able to stop their opponents. And I just think that Oregon State, if they're not able to run the ball on third down, that number is gonna go down even potentially. So, I think that up front, I think on the offense and defensive line, Oregon State wins that matchup. I think that they're a little bit better up front in the trenches. But this is kind of a gut play to me. Utah is on the road against Oregon State. I just feel like they're a tougher football program and have a little bit more stability right now than Oregon State. And I don't feel confident in betting against Utah at this point.
Yeah.
They've done nothing but prove us wrong if you are betting against Utah. So I agree. I am taking Utah at plus 3.5 or at plus 3, wherever it's at right now. I'll take it. And I think that the money line is a smart play. I'm not going to play that on the money line. I've got another pick coming for that. But over under at 44.5. If you're really feeling it, I would say take the under on that. This should be a really defensive game.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's pretty much as good as it gets. Both of these teams are positive in the turnover margin. Utah has really benefited from the takeaways at plus 5 in the turnover margin. So look to see them try to get the ball turned over. And we know DJU's not afraid to throw a pick or two when he's trying to throw the ball deep, especially. So I could see a couple of turnovers going Utah's way, and that kind of deciding the game at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I like Utah as a dog pretty much anytime. I am all over that, and I bet on Utah to cover against Florida earlier this year because I didn't fully understand what Florida was, and I didn't fully understand what Utah was at that point. But Utah plus points, I'm all over that, man. I'm all over it. Let's move into our USC at Colorado. So Colorado is fresh off of getting smoked last week. It was kind of a wake up call, I think, but maybe not. I don't know. It seems like Colorado's kind of walking with the same swagger and doing a lot of the same things. But I do notice that a lot of the talking about the games has stopped. And I saw Travis Hunter, man. I know he's not playing, but we saw him at halftime of the Oregon game. It's 42-0 or 35-0, something like that at halftime, and he's at home playing 2K basketball on the video games and streaming it for everybody to see. and I saw him today out there streaming in some dinosaur pajamas from his house, talking about Oregon and talking about the Colorado haters that are out there. And I just want to say, I don't. Do you know of anybody that hates Colorado other than the head coaches?
Yeah.
Because that's excuse me. I know that these head coaches hate Colorado and the way that they're doing things, and I totally understand. It's kind of an old heads environment. Guys that are lifer football coaches coaching these big programs, and here comes this guy that's hardly done it at this level, and he's talking a bunch of bull junk, and uh, so I know the coaches hate it, but who's hating on Colorado? I don't even understand. I feel like everybody's giving love to Colorado. I know we have when it was due, but as we talked about last week, it's over. This this 2 week stretch of Oregon and USC, there ain't a shot in the dark that Colorado is going to even have a chance in this game. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. And that's exactly why one of my best bets of the week is USC. And I actually locked it in at minus 23, but it's down to minus 21 and a half. I'm doing the same thing I did last week at Oregon. The line last week with Oregon was 21. So I'm taking the 21 and a half, and I'm not going to sweat it. I know I'm not going to sweat it. And I'll tell you why. Colorado's inability to run the football is what's going to do them in most of these games. And if that doesn't do it, it's going to be the inability to stop the run in these games. Marshawn Lloyd is about to run around like a wild man on this defense, and it's going to be very entertaining. I'm between Marshawn Lloyd and Austin Jones on this offense. They're gonna tear Colorado up. And I wouldn't be surprised if USC didn't line up and just let those guys get their carries. I know Caleb Williams will get his yards, but they're gonna run the ball, I think, this weekend. And I think it will be to the detriment of the Colorado Buffs. And I think USC covers. What do you think about this one, Mason?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I'm taking USC to cover at 21 and a half. I do have to say real quick, though, I am actually taking on the last game, Utah and Oregon State under 44 and a half, just for the record. I had that down in my notes. I did not refer to my notes, but I am taking both the Utah to cover at plus 3.5 over Oregon State and under 44 and a half.
We agree.
All right. Moving on to USC. I'm with you on that. So I'm taking USC minus 21 and a half. But yeah, you break this down, right? Break down this game here and break down the stats that we're getting loaded up for you now. And I just see a complete offensive overhaul kind of happening, right? And I think that they're just going to bully Colorado's defense. I mean, you look at Colorado; they're one of the worst defensive teams in the country. If you really, break it down in the FBS at least, right? They're one of the worst teams against really the best offense in the country.
Yeah,
Right. It couldn't really be more lopsided when USC takes the field and has possession of the ball. On the other side, USC, their defense is kind of a little bit better than it was, I would say. They're really good at sacking the quarterback. They've got 16 sacks on the year.
Yeah.
That's good for third in the country. But outside of that, I don't think that there are really many stats that you look at and go, wow, they scare me in that category. They're kind of middle of the pack everywhere else, which might be okay when you're the best when you're the best. Well, you have the best quarterback in the country, but when you're the best offense in the country, that might be okay. It's certainly going to be enough to get past Colorado. And when it comes to the betting line, I think it's really going to be enough to get, to score more than 21 and a half points than Colorado's able to score. So I think that's a pretty easy pick. When it comes to the over under at 73 and a half, I kind of want to stay away from that because I'm not sure what Colorado is going to be able to do offensively. I think that they're going to be able to put up about 24, 27 points against USC's defense. Again, kind of middle of the pack, right, when it comes to defense. And look, Colorado is really good at passing. They're fifth in the country in passing offense, and Shador Sanders is still a really good quarterback in my eyes, but it ran into a defense that's sound and a sound overall football team that kind of took possessions away from him and really did a good job of limiting him, knowing that was their main way of scoring points. So I don't think that USC has the secondary to do it. If they're able to get 5 sacks in this game, I think that they could really shut down Colorado. And I'm not putting it past them to do it. I mean, Colorado is, I think they were like next to last in sacks allowed at 23. You see on your screen, they're 132nd, but 23 sacks allowed.
Yikes.
Doesn't look good on paper with this USC pass rush and what they've been able to do. So maybe if USC can shut Colorado down enough, you take the under. I would stay away from the over under on this game. I think that they're giving you USC at minus 21.5. I think there's still some money coming in on Colorado and people kind of, I guess, supporting Colorado.
Yeah, when I locked this one up earlier in the week, it was minus 23.
Yeah.
And that's what I bet on. So it's gone down to 21.5.
Yeah.
I mean, that just blows my mind. But anybody who bets a lot will tell you that they typically don't like to bet with the public. So that only makes me feel better.
Yeah.
About what I'm doing. I think 56-28 is a pretty good score for this game.
Yeah.
And would result in a USC cover, which I believe is going to happen.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. And, I do look at this and I wonder, I mean, is Colorado really going to be able? I guess what I'm curious to know is how does Colorado bounce back? Right, we saw them struggle against Oregon. This isn't the same team as Oregon. Oregon's very balanced, right? USC is lopsided.
Yeah.
But can they get the offense going? Right, if they score more than 30 points, I would say that's a success. Even against USC, I would say that's pretty successful. Given that they still don't have Travis Hunter, and they kind of need to bounce back. Now it is going to be a home environment for Colorado. Maybe that helps them out a little bit, but ultimately I think that 21.5 points for USC is the play here.
I still believe, thinking about it too. I think this might be, even though it is USC, it might be the best defense that Colorado's played this year. I mean, if you really think about it, Colorado State, Nebraska, TCU looked god awful in that first game. We know they lost a ton of talent defensively, and that was their first game after losing said talent. So this might, I mean, at least the front line of the USC defense, it might be the best front seven that they've seen.
Okay. Yeah, I would say the best defensive line specifically, like just that unit.
Yeah.
But
I mean, who's Nebraska maybe better? Maybe.
Yeah. But I mean, are you saying outside of Oregon or?
Well, outside of Oregon.
Okay.
I was talking about those first 3 games, which is where all these stats came from.
Gotcha.
I think these stats are still settling here. And it's not just Colorado, it's USC as well. I think these stats are still settling. And as Colorado faces better opponents, I believe the offensive numbers will settle down a bit, even, scoring offense and averages and things like that. That's going to be one to watch, and everybody's going to be watching it. More people were watching the USC or the Oregon Colorado game last week than watched the Notre Dame and Ohio State game.
I believe it.
One of them rated a 5.3 for the night, and the other one rated a 5.0 Notre Dame game. And anything over 5 is huge, apparently. But that was pretty amazing to me that many people are tuned in to this Colorado situation. All eyes will be on Colorado again this week, and my eyes will be on it too because I got a little dough on the game. Florida at Kentucky. So Kentucky, I guess probably, unless you're a Kentucky fan or a fan of a team that Kentucky has played, You haven't probably. I mean, most people haven't watched Kentucky this year.
Yeah.
Haven't
I'm
really.
guilty. I'm guilty.
Well, I mean, who wants to watch Kentucky against Eastern Kentucky or
Yeah.
Western Kentucky or whoever the heck they've even been playing? I mean, it's been a bunch of no name teams. They played Vandy last week, and Vandy scored a few more points on them than what I would have liked to have seen
Yeah.
for a Kentucky team. I I'm interested to see how this Kentucky team handles this Florida defense. Um, let's pull up some stats because we're gonna need some help. Uh, we're gonna need some help this week. So looking at scoring offense, this is pretty decent numbers. But as we said, Kentucky hasn't played anybody. I mean, they haven't flat out played anybody. So I expect these numbers to settle down. Um, Defensively, pretty good rushing defense. Scoring wise, pretty decent. Third down conversion, not good. Sacks allowed is good. Sacks gained is good. Um, so all in all, pretty decent numbers for Kentucky. But what can we really take from that? Turnover margin, I think we can take something from that. They're +1, and that's good. Got to be even or +1. Florida, on the other hand, these offensive numbers are pretty woeful, huh? Pretty bad, pretty bad stuff going on in Gainesville with the offense, and I know Florida Gators fans are kind of wiggling in their seat. But you know what? They're fresh off a couple wins, and a couple wins can do a lot for your confidence. I know Billy Napier needed it. Defensively, this is a good Florida team. Pretty much have seen that every week. It's the offense that you know that kind of struggles week in and week out. But that's a Billy Napier team, man. They're run the football and stop the run type of football team, and I think that is a good way to start building a program. But it can also be a slow way to build a program because you got to have the Jimmies and Joes on the line of scrimmage to make it happen. Florida's offensive line is not that great this year. It's going to be interesting to see the physical battle that goes on in the trenches in this game because whichever team can win that battle is going to win this game. And whichever we said it a couple weeks ago too, Florida can't turn the ball over. If Florida turns the ball over, they'll lose Saturday. This offense is not good enough to be inefficient and to give the other team extra chances and give away chances of scoring. So if Kentucky gets just 2 turnovers, they will win this game and they will cover this spread and it won't be a problem. If Florida can protect the ball, this is going to be a very close game and Vegas will have picked it right. But this is my money line pick of the week. I'm taking Florida on the money line. Mason, what do you got on this game?
I think you nailed it. Obviously this is going to be a pretty close game, regardless of any turnovers or anything like that. I don't think anybody's going to march away with a 14-point win or a 3-score win or anything like that.
No.
Right. I just don't see it. I haven't seen enough out of Kentucky to say that, granted, I mean, they're undefeated,
Yeah.
They have found ways to win against lesser talent. Right. But whenever I break this down, I look at it and say, all right, what are these teams good at? Where are they lacking? You can make an argument for Kentucky, being a better team statistically. If you just look at the numbers that I've presented in front of you here, you can say Kentucky looks like a much better team on paper. However, Kentucky didn't face Utah week 1, right? That's a big difference.
Yeah.
That's a huge difference. So, it doesn't mean you can just throw the numbers out, but I think that we can at least put an asterisk on all of these numbers in a way. And so it makes it a little bit tough to read, in my opinion. One thing that does stand out, though, is that Kentucky's only allowed 4 sacks. So they've been pretty solid up front, which is a big turnaround from last season where, it seemed like they were getting, sacked left and right. I mean, good gosh, it seemed like their quarterback, his name's escaping me right now, but he's running for his life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And couldn't get that NFL talented arm, and put it to use. And outside of that, he didn't really have the weapon. So I'm excited to watch this game. Like I said, I haven't actually sat down and watched a Kentucky game live. I've kept up with their highlights and things like that, but this will be the first time I'm actually sitting down to watch them. I lean a little bit more towards Kentucky. I'm not going to pick them as a best bet, but again, when you break this down statistically on defense, it tells me that both teams are pretty good on defense,
Yeah.
right? So I feel pretty confident, and Vegas obviously knows that, right? Which is why the over/under set as low as 44.
It's like an NFL game.
Right. But I feel confident that they're going to go even below that. I think that we're going to see Kentucky struggle on offense a pretty good bit. And I think that this is going to end up being like an 18-21 type win.
Yeah.
For one team or the other. That's probably the best outcome that I can foresee coming. And you mentioned it. Look, Florida's -3 in the turnover margin. And you mentioned Kentucky being at +1. Florida's got to protect the ball better.
Yep.
They've done it the past couple of weeks, and it's led to a couple of wins. So let's see if they can continue with that. If they do, maybe Kentucky has their hands full with this one. But I can see this game being a pick 'em. But give me under 44 points for my best bet for this game.
All right, under 44. All right. Let's keep it moving. Let's see. So now we've got Kansas at Texas. Kansas at Texas. -17 to the Texas side. Over under set at 62. I don't have any best bets on this game. But we were looking at some of the stats and everything before this, before we recorded and everything, and just kind of chit-chatting about Kansas. And boy, I tell you what, man, for as good as everybody, and including us, we have Texas in our top 4, and they've got I would say a decent win this year over a decent Alabama team, right? That's in our top 25. They got to be decent. Pretty much all of the numbers are pretty underwhelming. I mean, scoring defense is good, rushing defense good, but my goodness, the rest of these numbers are just okay. And look, I'm not saying it, it is what it is. Texas has played down to some competition in this year, and they better not do it this Saturday, or Kansas will beat them. Now I think this is a good matchup for Texas. Obviously, Vegas thinks so too, or at least they feel like 16.5 is good enough to make you bet on it. So I'm staying away from this one, but I think it's going to come down to, if Kansas can shut down Texas's run game and make them put them in obvious passing downs, get them behind the chains, then I think that they stand a pretty damn good shot at covering this spread and maybe even making this thing interesting and going into the fourth quarter. And we've seen a lot of Texas games be interesting going into the fourth quarter, so it wouldn't be anything new. What you got any thoughts on this one, or any best bets or anything? What do you think about the Kansas Jayhawks visiting the Longhorns?
Man, I think you nailed it. I don't know what to expect with Texas anymore, right? Are they going to play down to their opponent? Are they going to blow out the teams that they should blow out? They did it last week, but I'm still not confident in them being able to do that week in and week out. On the flip side, I think Kansas is a really good program. And I think people need to realize that Kansas is legitimate. They're ranked for a reason, and they've been really good under Lance Leipold for the past 2 seasons. So if I were to make a play, I think that Kansas would be the right side of this, right? Take Kansas in the points. I don't like the over under at 63. I could easily see this being a really a 37-33 type game or something like that. It's really tough for me. I like Texas's defense in this. I think that they've gotten pretty good with the pass rush, especially. But on the flip side, Kansas has only allowed 5 sacks. They've been pretty good up front. I'm excited to see this game and see what Kansas is able to do and see if they've arrived. Um, but it's a stay away game for me from a betting perspective. I like Texas to win, obviously, um, but I think that Kansas is going to be able to make this pretty interesting.
Yeah, yeah. You know, Jaden Daniels is back. I think some of this passing offensive numbers are going to continue to go up as long as he continues to stay healthy because this team goes as he goes. And even if he doesn't stay healthy, there is a good quarterback waiting in the wings. I don't know how Kansas has the 1-2 quarterback duo that they have in this era of transfer portal, but it's one of the best backup situations I feel like that in Power Five.
Yeah.
I can think of a few others, maybe Texas and maybe a few others that are pretty good too. But my goodness, Bean can come in and fling that thing around, man. So I definitely respect Kansas, and I can't. It hasn't been that long since Kansas has beat Texas, so uh, I'm going to keep my eyes peeled on that one, and we'll see how everything turns out on Saturday. And I'm just going to stay away. So you have no best bets on that game, correct?
No, I'm good on that one. I don't know if I'll be betting for or against Texas for the rest of the season. To be honest with you,
Too unpredictable.
yeah.
They
Maybe
are.
maybe next week against Oklahoma because I know what to expect from Oklahoma and I know what to expect from Texas a little
Yeah.
bit more. I hope that Texas is taking Kansas seriously. That they should be. It's a ranked matchup. I mean,
Maybe we should be taking Kansas with like a look ahead spot.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like I said, I think
I
Kansas
don't
in the
I don't
points.
hate that play, and
Yeah.
now that we say that, I didn't realize that game was next week, the
Right.
Cotton Bowl.
Right.
I didn't realize that was happening next week. Um, and man, I can't wait. I cannot wait to see that game. I guarantee you, Oklahoma don't get beat 50-0 this year.
No.
They got beat 49-0 last year. Got totally embarrassed, and I guarantee you that doesn't happen again. I don't know that they'll win, but I can't wait to see the line on it. All right, next one we're going to talk about. It's my Georgia Bulldogs at the Auburn Tigers. Georgia is a 14.5 point favorite. The over under is at 47. It has crept down just a bit. This is one of my best bets of the week, but it's not UGA minus the 14.5. No. UGA has yet to cover a spread this year. I will not be betting on that. I'm taking the under, and I got it at 47.5. So if that hook means a lot to you, then buy the hook down or buy it back up. You could buy that and probably sacrifice, you know, minus, 0, 1, 10 on your money return and get that hook. So if that's something that bothers you, well, I know a lot of people have their key numbers that they try to stick to. But in this case, the hook helped me. So look, UGA has started slow every single week this year. They started, I feel like, a little bit faster last week. Second quarter, they got things going, but just about every other game this year, it's been the third quarter before they've got anything going. And I heard somebody talking about it today. Talking about the clock and things like that, and it is running a little bit faster. I think you're going to start seeing more teams take the ball when they win the coin toss at the beginning of the game. I think eventually you're going to see that because what happens is a team will get the ball and they get a couple first downs, 3, 4 first downs. 7 minutes has gone off the clock, and your offense is probably only getting 1 or 2 possessions in that first quarter. And those are the hardest drives to stop. Are always the first drives of the game because they're all scripted. So anyway, with all that being said, I think UGA always defers to the second half, always. Um, and I know it sounds crazy and it sounds something minute, but I think they need to stop doing that. And I think they need to take the ball and they need to go down there and score. But with all that being said, they've started slow this year. Auburn does not have a good offense. So I'm taking the under here. Very simple thought process on that. You know, Auburn's defense has played, I think, surprisingly well. This is a really good secondary, and I think Georgia is going to have to be able to establish the run game, which has been a little bit of a weakness, but something that they've really improved upon the last couple of weeks. What do you think about our Georgia Bulldogs as I pull up some of these stats?
Yeah, I mean, okay, Georgia's favored by 14.5 points. They got to go play at Jordan Hare, which is a very tough environment to play at in the SEC. I could see it going in Georgia's favor just because I think that Auburn's really trying to figure things out. And they're under a new system with Hugh Freeze. I could see this being a closer game and kind of a 10-point game. I could see Georgia having to come back from behind and, kind of winning it in the second half. But I could also see Georgia just overpowering them and figuring things out on offense. I thought that Carson Beck last week took a step in the right direction, especially in that second half. Really, the second quarter on, he played much better and threw for a high of 336 yards, and he missed a 60-yard pass. Really could have been over 400 yards pretty easily.
Yeah.
And had some drops that I think they had 3 drops on the day. So there are some things to like about the UGA offense and the way that it's moving forward. On the other hand, Auburn, I feel like if Auburn had a third quarterback, they'd play him right now, and he's just not there. Right? They got 2 guys. If they had the quarterback stable that Alabama has, we'd be talking about how they're playing 3 quarterbacks as well. So, I think that they're kind of scrambling to figure things out to try to. It's almost like going into the kitchen and, it's the day before you go grocery shopping and you're trying to put dinner together, and you're just trying to see if something can taste right. Right. But I think that they're struggling to really
fish sticks and whole kernel corn.
That's right. That's anytime you add corn in the mix, you got a balanced meal. Right. But I think that that's what they're trying to do is just kind of throw something together and see if it sticks. The other angle that I'm looking at is, Hugh Freeze has actually been really successful against Kirby Smart's defenses.
Yeah,
going back to his time at Ole Miss and Kirby's time at Alabama, does that play into this game at all? I just don't think. I think when you look at it, I don't think that Auburn has the horses to keep up with Georgia in any way. I would take Georgia to cover the 14.5 points if I were to place a bet on this. I don't like betting for or against my own team because there is a bias built in.
Yeah.
I know so much about the Georgia team and less about every other team in college football, like every college football fan does,
Yeah.
But it adds a little bit of a challenge, I think, when it comes to betting. And also the last time I felt good about a bet was South Carolina, and Georgia didn't cover on that one. So
well, I hear everything you're saying. And I've thought exactly the same thoughts that you've thought, but I keep coming back to this: how is Auburn going to score? It's going to take a trick play, probably to score a touchdown. I'm thinking in this game, I don't see Auburn, driving 80 yards to score on Georgia's defense. I just don't see it. Maybe a field goal here, maybe a field goal there, but it's going to take a couple of turnovers, setting up a short field for Auburn, and Auburn hitting a trick play or 2 or 3, and that's the kind of day that it's going to be. Auburn's going to have to hit a couple of trick plays, maybe get a couple of turnovers, maybe go for it on 4th down a couple times and get it. I think that it's that type of game because unless they have some luck on their side, man, this offense just ain't good enough. It's just not good enough. And I think they can get a few first downs on this Georgia defense, but I don't see them pushing them down the field. And so it keeps bringing me back to, okay, even if Georgia scores 7 points in the first half, I think they'll be leading at halftime. If there's an over-under on Auburn's first half points, and I'm going to check it right around game time, I think it's probably under. It's got to be under 7.
It's not posted yet, so
no, yeah, and it won't post probably till
I think
Saturday.
the team totals for the first half for both teams is 23.5.
for both teams. And I could see Georgia being up 14-7, or honestly, I just think under all the way is the play on this game. I can't see a world where this game goes over unless all of a sudden Georgia just figures it out and they just bomb this Auburn defense. And this game just don't never play out like that.
Yeah.
It just really never plays out like that. So
not at Jordan Hare either. It's going to be a loud environment. Carson Beck's going to be a little startled, I believe.
I've been thinking all week 28-7.
Okay.
I've been thinking all week Georgia wins this game 28-7. And I could see 28-10, being a possibility, or maybe even 28-14. If they get what I said, a trick play, something like that.
Yeah.
I feel really, really good about the under in this game.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna take a look at halftime per team unders and things like that. And if you're actually interested in betting on this game, that seems like more of the play to me, because I wouldn't play Georgia to cover with 14 and a hook. If it was 14, I'd play it.
Yeah. So, and one thing, that really stopped me from betting the under like you did at 47, it's just looking at last week where they gave up 21 to UAB.
Yeah.
And that's really what gave me some pause. They've got some guys out. I'm not sure the status of Michael Williams. I'm not sure the status of Bullard.
Right.
I don't know if those are two very key playmakers that Georgia needs. They've got a few that have been out all year. Really, they're really hurting for players, and it makes me a little uncertain about the defense and whether or not they're going to hold up. To completely shut Auburn out. Now they could, but I look at that UAB game and I go, man, we really miss Bullard. We really miss Michael. We're still missing TID in the middle. There's a lot to look at and scratch your head at. But if you factor in the injuries, which is not an excuse to play poorly, but it kind of changes your lines a little bit. And it's tough to account for that, which is another reason for me to stay away from it. But I think that under would be the play here if I were to bet on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. And I think it'll hit. Auburn, I'm telling you, Cal held them to 14 points.
Yeah.
And I'm just not a believer in this Auburn team whatsoever. And we're going to see on Saturday. I'm going to be at Auburn fans' house. What's up, Brett? Love you, buddy. See you Saturday.
Who knows? Maybe UAB has a better offense than Auburn. Maybe UAB.
I didn't want to say that in the video, but dude, you might be right.
Yeah.
Because I know that quarterback, the quarterback that played for UAB was the same quarterback that Georgia played against, that played for Baylor when Georgia played Baylor in that bowl game a few years ago. Zeno
sounds like a good fruit infused water, like a sparkling water or something.
NIL opportunity.
Yeah.
Right there. Get your Zeno water
Get
today.
Your Zeno with 0 calories. There you go.
Yeah, nobody wants to give an NIL deal to the UAB quarterback. Oh man. LSU is favored by 2.5 points at Ole Miss. UAB I got UAB on my brain. I'm sorry. LSU favored by 2.5 at Ole Miss. Over under 61. I'm not touching the over under. That's
great. It did creep up to 67. That's the one that changed a lot.
Oh yeah, that's right. I didn't update them on here.
That's all right.
Well,
I got it on the slide
for accuracy. So let's pull up the slides here and we'll take a look. I'll go ahead and tell you, LSU is one of my bets of the week, and it's kind of a gut thing. So if you hadn't liked my gut this year, which is honestly my gut's been about 500, so I don't think you can lose. Okay, I really don't think you can lose. I'm gonna go at least 500 this week. I can almost assure you of that. But something's telling me to take LSU here. Look, this LSU team is like this. Okay? They go up, they go down. They go up, they go down. This seems like an up week to me. And it always seems like when they have a down week, it's at LSU. Last year, they got smoked by Tennessee at home.
Yep.
Struggled under the lights. The LSU fans all the time talking about, we never get any night games at LSU and blah, 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 blah. And then they go struggle under the lights in LSU. So I like them in this road spot right here. And I really like Jaden Daniels and the Malik Neighbors and this offensive attack to go in and do some damage against Ole Miss. I really do. Ole Miss passing defense is ranked 69th in the nation. I think LSU throws for 300 yards in this game, and I also see this LSU defense eating up Jackson Dart in this game. I think LSU's defense is fast. I think they're athletic, just like every LSU team has been for the last 15, 20, 25 years or whatever. They're fast and athletic. I think Jackson Dart's going to have a really hard time. It seems like he tries to play some Superman football when he's playing quarterback. He wants to do it all. I like this defense getting after Ole Miss here, and I like LSU to cover that little 2.5. And I think they can win by a touchdown here. What do you think about this one?
I think we're thinking alike on a lot of these games here because I've also got LSU minus 2.5. I'm tempted to also take the under, but I just don't know what to expect. We've seen LSU explode on offense. We've seen Ole Miss explode on offense in some ways. And so I don't know what to expect there, but I am very confident that LSU can win by at least 3 points. They just did it to Arkansas, and that was Arkansas's absolute best punch. That was them playing at their best, and we saw Ole Miss really kind of not play at their best last week against Alabama. So I'm wondering kind of where that program is at right now. I'm wondering where Jackson Dart is at, and if he's going to be able to have a bounce back game. He did not look himself against a really stingy and tough Alabama defense. And I know LSU is not Alabama, especially on defense, but when I look at this offense, I say, yeah, they're much better than Alabama on offense, I think. So, especially when it comes to passing, but top 25 in every offensive category for the most part. So that is getting it done, for LSU. So to me, minus 2.5 is the play. It is in Oxford, which could play into the under even. I think a little bit. Maybe LSU is not able to get going early, but I think that they will. I think that they'll have a sort of a bounce back game in a sense that they were favored by 14 points last week against Arkansas, and only won by 3 points. So
17 and a half.
Was it 17? Okay.
Yeah.
So I think in that aspect they'll have a bounce back game and be able to cover the spread here at 2.5 points. I think that's kind of laughable, and I'd be really surprised if Ole Miss is able to win this one. And we've seen this before where the media is all over Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, but realistically, and we're starting to hear that chatter that I guess you started it, Mark, but we're hearing it from Josh Payton and others. What is his big win? What is Lane Kiffin's big win? And so
and everybody's stealing that, and they're stealing my Washington pick, man.
Yeah,
everybody's stealing my Washington team now.
Man, it's almost like they're playing well or something.
I know it. But I was on them before they played well. Actually, They played well last year. Just nobody wants to talk about it.
Yeah, you're right.
No, I'm with you on the Ole Miss thing, man. It's and yet again, this would be one of his biggest wins.
Yeah,
if he won this game right here,
it would
and I'm not buying it.
He won't.
Yeah. He's not going to do it, man. I just don't. I don't see it. I'm off the Lane train. Great offensive mind. That guy is a great offensive mind. I wish Georgia had somebody like Lane Kiffin as their offensive coordinator. If you could somehow just put a muzzle on him and make him sign a contract like Hugh Freeze did, where he's not allowed to get on social media anymore, that would be. I'm telling you, you'd have the best offense in the country more than likely, as Alabama did years ago. Let's go on to the next one. It's our Golden Domers at our Dukies. So This is another team that I've been high on since the offseason. About 2 months in, or 2 months out from the season, I was all over Duke to beat Clemson. Y'all all made me chicken out. Y'all all made me scared. And I took Duke in the points and then missed out on the money line. I put $5 on the money line, so I won a little bit, but it wasn't, wasn't what it should have been because I was feeling great. And then I let some people talk me out of it, and I'm not going to do that again this year. I'm trusting my gut. So, with all that being said, I'm taking Duke plus 5.5 here. I'm taking the home dog. And there's a couple different lines of thought on this. Or there's a few different lines of thought. I love Duke, first of all. I love what they're doing. This is just a pretty good all-around team here. Passing offense is not great, but they get her done. And Riley Leonard is a really, really, really tough quarterback to handle. Definitely going to be a lot different situation than what Notre Dame faced off with last week at Ohio State with a quarterback who was more than happy just to stay in the pocket. Riley Leonard, you give him a chance, he'll hit 2-3 reads in a couple seconds, and if he sees a gap and there ain't nobody open, he's gone, man. And he's tough to catch, very tough runner, very physical. Led this team last year in obviously passing yards as the quarterback, but also in rushing yards. I'm a huge Riley Leonard fan. Saw him have a lot of success against Clemson. I think this Notre Dame defense is very similar to Clemson. If Duke can get a turnover or two in this game, they're +5 on the year, man, and that's really, really solid. If they can get a couple turnovers here, they will absolutely win this game because I don't see Duke putting the ball on the ground or putting it up for grabs a whole lot. And I think that's why that turnover margin is the way it is. I don't think they're getting an abnormal amount of turnovers. I think they're protecting the football and taking advantage of their opportunities. They sure did against Clemson. So I continue to like Duke. I feel like the limelight has stayed off of them somehow, even though they're undefeated at this point in the season. And Notre Dame is coming off a super emotional loss where it was an emotional loss for me, Mason, and you. Okay. We were already high-fiving. Okay. We were like the Georgia Bulldogs. They were eating chicken wings on the sideline of the national championship. But then Notre Dame didn't win like the Georgia Bulldogs. They were eating chicken wings on the sideline of the national championship. They lost, man. Just in the last couple of minutes, just freaking blew it. And don't you know that that's just like air out of the tires, especially whenever you lose it on a play where you've got 10 men on the field, for basically the last few plays of that game. So that's got to be a deflating feeling to put a game together like that and you still trip up in a big game. And Notre Dame has been known for the last 15 years can't win a big game. Lost another one, and it was at home in front of their home crowd again. This is going to be a tough week, I think, for them to bounce back and play their best football. I think this Duke game is a really tough game for them, and I'm almost talking myself into putting a few bucks on the money line. But I'm going to stick with my best bet of the week, and I'm going to take Duke plus 5.5 points on this game. Mason, what do you got?
Well, I'm with you on that. I've also got Duke at plus 5.5 points. That is a best bet for me. And really, when you break it down, right, Duke is another one of those bend but don't break sort of defenses. They've only given up 8.8 points per game. Excellent. Good for 4th in the country. Notre Dame, 15th, which is still really solid after facing a pretty tough offense in Ohio State. I think that they still have their best football yet to come with Kyle McCord kind of getting his feet up under him and getting going and learning how to utilize those awesome weapons that they have over there in Ohio. But, I kind of look at this and on the flip side, real quick, for Notre Dame, I mean, they're very, very well balanced, right? They're, really top 35 in pretty much every offensive and defensive category. They've given up a lot on third down, it looks like, for on the defensive side of the ball. only allowed 4 sacks. They've had 7 sacks, which is pretty average. And they're not turning the ball over a whole lot. They're at +3 in the turnover margin. But all of that aside, right? Statistically, you would say that Duke should get beat by Notre Dame. Going back to what you mentioned, I'm looking at Notre Dame coming off of an emotional loss that they really put everything into. Right? They've invested. They kind of blew their load on the Ohio State game, and now got to go to Duke, an undefeated Duke, in an environment that Duke has never had before. Right? With Notre Dame coming in and they're undefeated, this is going to be as ruckus of an environment as that stadium has ever held.
Yeah.
It will be. It's gonna. Is it? Now, I'm not telling you it's Death Valley at night. Alabama versus LSU or anything like that. But I do think that there's going to be a lot of emotion, a lot of passion in this game. Those fans want to storm the field again, right? Yeah. So I think that it's a pretty safe bet to go with Duke at +5.5. And I really like when you don't take the money line with Duke, because you already lost it once this year with Clemson. So I'm going to take the money line.
Damn.
And I'm going to take Duke to cover. So that money line is at +175 if it hits. So that's pretty good money right there. It's easy to say that and not put your money there, but I'm going to see if I can't put some money on that and see if I can win something here this week. So.
That'd be a good. I think it'd be a good bet. I mean, gosh, this Duke team has done nothing but play good football this year, and this is a compromising position for Notre Dame here.
Yeah,
it really is. And I think there's an opportunity. I hate to say it, I think there's an opportunity here for either Notre Dame to really show what they're made of and the character of this team, or if they take another loss right here, I mean, maybe it comes unraveled, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
I could see them kind of fading off into the distance if they lose this game. So let me get you wrote down here for Duke money line, and then we might just be betting some together on that. I may go hit that bad boy up. We'll see how it goes down. Let's get into our next game. South Carolina at Tennessee. Wow. Okay, so over under 62. The South Carolina scored like 62 on them last year, didn't they?
It's actually gone up to 63.5, but
yes.
Still.
So last year, everybody remembers South Carolina just absolutely tore Tennessee apart. And this was the game that their quarterback,
Hooker.
Yeah, old Hooker, Hendon Ho. This was the game that he blew his knee out, but it had nothing to do with that. That was in the third, fourth quarter. That was like when this game was already out of hand. Tennessee could not stop South Carolina, man. And honestly, if I'm taking a side on this one, I'm taking South Carolina +12.5 here. I am not a believer in this Tennessee team right now. I am not a believer in South Carolina either, but I don't know, man. It is going to be a really tough road environment for the Gamecocks. Tennessee, speaking from somebody who's been there in person, that place can get loud, and that's when Tennessee sucked. And they knew that Georgia was about to kick their ass, right? And they're still loud and giving me a hard time in there. I like to had to move seats because they dislike that color red so much. But that's a really loud place. And what time is this game played at? This is at 7:30 p.m. It's going to be a night game on the river. Going to be a little cool out there. It's going to be feeling like fall in college football. And those Tennessee fans are going to be letting South Carolina have it after what happened last year. But South Carolina really struggles to run the ball, but they've got a secret weapon, and his name's Spencer Rattler. And between Spencer Rattler and this receiving core, I can see them having a lot of success on this really, really shoddy Tennessee secondary, and really kind of makes for an overall shoddy defense that Tennessee's got. They're better against the run than they are the pass, and that's been the case for the last couple years. They were really bad against the pass last year. One of the worst pass defenses in all the nation last year, bottom 10. And I haven't seen a ton of improvement with my eyes, and we'll pull the numbers up here in a second. Maybe they're a little better than what they were. I haven't even looked at them yet because I got such a feel on Tennessee at this point that I feel confident that I could take South Carolina plus the 12.5. I'm going to leave it alone just because of the mere fact that South Carolina, there's a 0% chance they're going to be able to run the football in this game because they haven't been able to run the football even against like North Carolina this year. So it's going to be on Spencer Rattler's shoulders again, but that hasn't stopped him for throwing for about 300 yards a game this year. I mean, this guy, I've never seen somebody get hit so many times and get back up and then throw a 20-yard pass. This guy's tough as nails, and Spencer Rattler is a story of a quarterback who has really grown up in front of our eyes and has really become a leader of the South Carolina offense. And I have to say, honestly, I'm kind of rooting for him at this point because he's in a tough situation in a South Carolina offense that has no offensive line whatsoever. Let's pull up the stats and we'll take a little look-see here. Yeah. Passing offense, 340 yards a game. So that's all Spencer Rattler and these two wide receivers that they got, Juice Wells and Leggett. These guys are very dynamic, and if they can figure out a way to just get them the ball on the outside and let them make plays against this Tennessee team and spread them out, I think they stand a pretty good chance of giving Tennessee a run for their money. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. If Juice Wells can stay healthy, stay on the field,
Yeah.
that's been kind of his biggest issue. But breaking this down, I mean, South Carolina's rushing offense is 128th in the country, which is almost last. That's really, really bad, and it's not going to get any better, right?
It's an offensive line problem. It's not a running back problem.
It is.
You know?
It is. I don't think that Marshawn Lloyd would be able to average more than 3 yards a carry.
There's a
with
reason
this
he
offensive
left.
line. Exactly. Exactly. So also sacks allowed at 17. That's 127th. Passing defense 129th. So these are all bottom 1% categories in all of college football. So not very good statistically for an SEC team to be playing like this. It makes for a very tough. It makes it hard. And South Carolina's got one of the toughest schedules in college football.
Year in and year out. Yeah.
Yeah. So they've got some a tough road to hoe, and this just doesn't make it any better. But it really comes down to their offensive line. Outside of that, they're not that bad. You could look at their pass defense. Okay, 129th in the country. That's their rushing defense is okay. They've had 9 sacks on the year, which is pretty good. So I would say that that's probably on the secondary to be giving up 317 yards per game. It's a lot of yards. But I don't think that Tennessee is really equipped, despite what you might believe. I don't think that Tennessee is really equipped to take advantage of that. As you might think that this version of Tennessee spreads you out and then wants to run it down the middle.
Mm-hmm.
They want to spread you out to kind of get your guys out of the box and run the ball up the middle, and you've got to really commit to loading that box up and playing man on the outside.
Yeah.
Now maybe that works to their favor. Maybe they pass the ball better this game because South Carolina doesn't have the dudes to play on the outside.
Yeah.
So just kind of breaking this down here, but I do think that Tennessee is going to be able to win this game. I could see South Carolina covering. I'm just statistically, man, this is my gut tells me South Carolina, but I honestly could not bet. I was over here thinking about putting South Carolina as the best bet to cover, but I would stay the hell away from this game because, like I said, statistically, it does not play in South Carolina's favor, and that's kind of just how I feel about it. It's a little bit of head versus heart kind of feeling for me. I think that Tennessee's a pretty bad offense this year.
Yeah.
I think that they've improved on defense, which is a little disheartening if you're a Tennessee fan. But that they've they've done some good things, particularly in their rush defense. Allowed less than 3 yards per carry. That's a pretty good from what I remember from last year. I think that's a little bit of an improvement there. And then obviously they're running the ball a lot better. They're playing towards their strengths. And they've got a pretty good offensive line. I think that it really boils down to Joe Milton and his inability to hit the middling sort of balls, and he hasn't even been that much of a deep threat. I don't know if they're
No.
just not allowing him to throw downfield as much, or if he's just incapable of hitting downfield accurately. We all know he can throw it 90 yards, but
when the receiver's 82 out,
that's right.
It doesn't matter.
That's right.
Look, when Florida and Tennessee played the other week, I came up with a couple rules for each of these teams. Florida, if they want to win, they can't turn the ball over. They have to be efficient. Tennessee, if they want to win, I think they need to rush the ball for 175 yards or more. If they don't hit that 175 to 200 mark rushing the ball, I don't think this Tennessee team is hardly a threat to beat anybody in conference anyway. So that's what I think is going to come down to in this game. Which one is the unstoppable force, or which one is in the immovable object here? And if South Carolina can play some rush defense and hold them to 150 yards or so, or 100 yards rushing, I think South Carolina stands a really good chance of winning this game. I don't think Tennessee is able to even set up their offense whatsoever if they can't effectively run the football. And they've done that this year, and most of their wins, I mean, let's just be real about it. They haven't beat anybody good. I mean, Virginia is god awful. They started off with a Power 5 team, but it's Virginia for God's sake. There ain't a team with a pulse in the state of Virginia hardly. So I am that's what I want to watch. I want to see the South Carolina rush defense against this rushing attack of Tennessee. I think this is a bad matchup for Tennessee. The more I look at it, I just don't think this is a great matchup for them. You're trying to actually kind of do the one thing that South Carolina defense is decent at, and I think that the passing defense for Tennessee, I know that it says they're 37th. I don't think they're the 37th best passing defense in the nation. I think they're probably more in the 60 to 70 range, and I think that's probably what we'll see as the year goes on. And I think that's a bad matchup with Spencer Rattler. This dude, I'm telling you, he's on one this year, man. And just like he finished the year on one last year.
Yep.
So I think that's a key to victory for Tennessee is if they can rush the ball for around 200 yards. I think they'll be successful. If South Carolina can hold them to, let's say, 150 yards or under rushing, then I think they stand a damn good chance of winning this football game right here.
I agree, 100%. Yep. This is one, if you really just have a few bucks that you're willing to put out there, put it on the money line. I could definitely see it going that way, and it'd be a huge upset, especially back-to-back, years. Shane Beamer would love that. He needs a win. Again, he's got a gauntlet of a schedule still yet in front of him, so he needs to find a way to win in one of these games that he shouldn't. So
I hear that he had a local Knoxville hot dog joint. He ordered a bunch of hot dogs for the team meal for Tennessee. He's hoping it's going to slow them down, just like it did the officials in the game the other day. He's hoping the Frank's hot dogs are going to work out. I wonder if South Carolina has an official hot dog sponsor.
Well, they should now.
Because if I was him, that would have been a good time to just brand drop right there. Well, that's all the games that we got to break down. Am I missing one, Mason? That's it, right?
I think that's it. I think we're ready for some best bets.
Well, let's do that. Let's do some best bets. Why don't you throw a best bet of the week out there, or give me your best bets, and let me go ahead and jot them down here.
Yeah. So, all right. So we've already got Utah at +3.5 over Oregon State. I've also got Utah at Oregon State under 44.5. Also, I'm playing the Kentucky and Florida under 44. USC minus 21.5 over Colorado. LSU minus 2.5 over Ole Miss. And Duke plus 5.5 over Notre Dame. And the money line, I'm playing Duke on the money line at plus 175.
As well as the
yeah,
5.5.
that's right. So outside of that, I've only got 2 other picks. Now that was a lot of picks. So,
Yeah.
But give me Penn State minus 27 over Northwestern. This is a Penn State team that just beat Iowa 31-0, right? So, do we really think that Northwestern is going to make this a closer game than Iowa?
Yeah.
In what universe does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, this is a Northwestern team that got beat by Rutgers, right? Like badly,
Right.
badly. So I'm with
Yeah.
you. I'm with you.
So I think that's a pretty easy play. So I think Penn State will probably win by 30 or more. And then the only other play that I have is Washington at minus 18 over Arizona. I think anything under 18 right now for Washington is an easy cover, for most games, right? We'll see once they face, Oregon and USC and other big teams out there in the Pac-12, but against Arizona, I think that's a pretty easy pick for me, and that's all I have this week. So a pretty good number of picks there, and I feel pretty good about this week. I've got some variety. I've got some overs. Excuse me. I've got some unders. Playing the over/under. Right now, I just think the unders are hitting. And I think that
seems like it.
Yeah, I think that the new clock rules have a little bit to do with that, but
I bet the first half unders are just banging.
right.
I bet they're just banging this year. I'd
Yeah.
like to know what the stats are on the first half unders hitting and not hitting. I bet that it's over 50%. I
Yeah.
bet you.
Yeah.
Well, there's Mason's picks of the week right there on the screen for you. And we try to do that at the end of each of these shows so that we can go back and reference them. But I just want to throw this out there too before we get too far in there. The Between the Lines segment is brought to you by blank because we're not sponsored yet, but could be. We're 29-26 for the year. And so we got back over 500 this past week. And this is a number that we're going to continue to work on as the year goes on. But I'm telling you right now that's deceiving. We had like one bad week or whatever. So I think that we're going to be able to have a good week this week. I got a good feeling, and we had a lot of unity here. And I'm going to throw my picks of the week up on here. And as you can see, I've got Washington, and I locked it in at 17.5. So
Okay.
I'm with you on that. I think anything 18 or under, I'm with it. And so some of these numbers are what I locked them in at earlier in the week. So you just got to excuse that, and you're going to have to read between the lines, right? Read between my lines here. So I got USC minus 23. I got UGA Auburn under 47. Utah money line. Utah Oregon State under 45. Washington minus 17.5. Florida money line. LSU minus 2.5, and Duke plus 5.5. So we got about the same amount of picks. You and I, we got a lot of best bet unity going on. So I feel good about it. Whenever we're both hitting on the same ones, that makes me feel good about it. So we're going to ride those picks out into the weekend. We really appreciate everybody tuning in. If you would, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up. We need your help. We're trying to get the word out here that the First and Long College Football Show is here to stay, baby. We're not going anywhere. We want you to come hang out with us weekly. We got multiple videos, a lot of content coming out, shorts, all that type of stuff. Give us a like when you see our videos. Hit subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. And we will see you later on this week. But for First and Long College Football Show, I am Marcus. That's Mason. Everybody, have a great day.
Thanks. Have a great night.